Hi again, it's Ray. Back to working on the preliminary wiring of the compressor. Um, the first thing that we're going to do here is get a little organized with your tools. Now, I got a lot of my tools right here, so we're in pretty good shape. But you're going to need a screwdriver to get behind this, and you guys know how much I like power tools. So that's essentially what I'm going to use, is my little electric screwdriver. So we're going to go in here and we're going to pull this. We're going to pull this little plate off. And remember, when taking this stuff off or putting it back together especially, you're just screwing things into sheet metal, so don't go haywire with it because you'll just strip it. It's fairly simple. So what you can see here is, and don't be afraid to handle this stuff. You really shouldn't break any of it. But remember, unplugged. Don't. We're not fooling with anything that's live and dangerous. So we're just going to go back into expansion here and looking at what we got. Try to make sure that when you go in here and clip this stuff, that you just take off these cable ties. And you don't just stab into it and take the wires with it, because one of the goals of the system here is to try and maintain as much of the original wiring as possible, just so we don't have to do an abundance of additional work. So let me get a little closer here. So what do we have? We've got what looks like control wires that go into and back from the original controller. Now, again, if you watch some of the other videos, like I said, you know that I cut these because I know where they are. They actually come by this area right here, and when I drilled the hole, these wires go whoop, right through here. And then when I drilled this hole, I typically cut through them. I wish they didn't put them there, because this is the area that I want my conduit, but I don't have much of a choice. So these wires, for all intents and purposes, are pretty much toast. So we're really not going to need these because we're not going to use them. Now, if you didn't cut the wires and you had some other reason to to go up there and to use these, that's great. But there's no need to continue to discuss this too much. I got my handy dandy lineman's pliers. Now, you need a number of tools in order to get this done, and in the beginning I'll go through and I'll give you a tools list, but I have a tool for everything. So you don't necessarily need a pair of lineman's pliers. You can certainly use a pair of regular pliers. Or you can just cut this stuff off. You don't have to be too particular about it. I always give my first shot at squeezing the connector and trying to salvage the wire without cutting the wire off. It's just my habit of doing things. So if we were to kind of examine what's going on here, you got your plug. Remember, here's your plug wire, and your plug wire comes in down here. So let's zoom it out just a tad. So your plug wire comes in down here. That's your plug, okay? And then it comes right up into this. And remember, what did I tell you the convention was here? The convention is black, white, green. So black is your power wire, okay? And then white is your neutral wire, and then green is your ground. And you can see that, if you can see in there, you can see that the ground wire is just gone ahead and it's attached to the chassis of the appliance, making this a formally grounded appliance, which is nice. So if you need to take this off for whatever reason, or take it off, I don't think you need to, but if you take it off, just be sure and put it back, because it grounds the whole appliance, and that's one of the things that makes the appliance a little bit safer. Okay, so just a brief lesson in electricity. Electricity looks for the shortest path. Okay, so if the shortest path is running the appliance, well, that's great. But if it's shorted, or actually one of these hot wires is hanging out somewhere, and like this, okay, so this is a hot wire, and I'm an idiot, and I've got it plugged in, and I touch it, and then I'm touching something grounded. Well, its shortest path is through your body, through to the ground. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why we have the chassis grounded. If this touches, then boom, it essentially shorts out. It blows the circuit in your house, and it's just safer for you because the chassis takes that current back to the panel instead of your body taking it back to the panel. So that's not what we want. Okay, so then the next item here is the is this wire, and you guys can see that maybe. Okay, so this wire, let's zoom out a little bit. This wire, if we trace it, down here, it feeds back and down into this corner. So this is all the control wires that go in and actually run your compressor. Okay. So what does it take to run the compressor? It takes basically a hot and a neutral wire. That's all that it takes. But the compressor isn't directly hot, of course. Why? Because otherwise it would run all the time. So it's not hot all the time. It actually picks up the wire from the controller. Okay, so the blues, remember our schematic, the blues are essentially neutrals, and then the reds are the hots. So we've got a combination of two hots. We've got a hot that goes up to the old controller, okay, and then we've got a hot that comes from the controller, and then that's what this. Well, the blue wire here is neutral. So this red is coming back. It goes from this hot, which we disconnected previously, right, to this brown. So that was the hot that went up to the controller. And then in order to keep the convention, the red wire loops back around and comes from the controller. And when the controller lights up this red wire, let's zoom you in again. When it lights up this red wire, then it feeds over to the compressor, okay? And then you can see this little black wire right here. Well, that comes over here and it lights up our fan. So I got to tell you guys, it's devilishly simple. There's nothing really complex about it at all. So, but again, what you want to do is you want to just try and remember the convention and go from there. Well, we're going to want to pick up this neutral, and we're going to want to do other things with it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up this connector. Now, if this stuff really scares you and wigs you out, then take a piece of blue tape or take a piece of masking tape and go ahead and label. Go ahead and label what's what. But again, like I said, it's devilishly simple. We've got whites and blues or neutrals, okay? And we've got blacks and reds, which are power. So, I promise you, if you go ahead and you open up all this stuff, I won't let you wire it up wrong, because it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to squeeze this guy and open that one up, and that one's garbage too, so we chuck that. So now you definitely can't take the cooler back because you have just totally killed it. No, I'm just kidding. So there you go. We got power over here to the fan, right? I'm sorry, I'm getting this someplace where you can't see it. So we got power over here to the fan. We got power from the plug into the cooler itself, and we got power to the refrigerator. I mean, again, couldn't be more simple. Okay. So we're going to come back in the next video. We're going to tin these up, because you see the way these fray like this. That I can't stand that. And so what I do is I take a soldering iron. I don't usually use the one off my bench. I come with my Instant Hot type soldering gun here, and then we come in and we tin all these up and we make them neat, and that way we can work with them. Now these guys, look, you can cut these guys off. You can do just about anything you want with them. And for giggles, because I don't want to deal with the frayed end of these wires, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut them off like that. And but like I said, I'm not a big wire wasteful kind of guy. And if one of these wires was intact and I wanted to use it for something in the future, in the end, when it comes to neatening up this project, I'm going to bundle these up. I'm going to zip tie them together, and I'm just going to let them hang in here. Okay, so that's what we're going to do with those. But we don't need any of these combinations that run up in here back to the cooler, because it's totally abandoned. It's gone. It's a done deal. So no more of that. So like I said, to recap, the fan works off of black and white, and that's going to be switched so that it runs when the cooler runs. And the cooler runs off of, it's the same as a black and white, it's just changed convention. If you remember, if I pointed back up to my schematic, red is hot, blue is neutral, okay? So like I said, couldn't be simpler. We don't even need to, we don't need to go back here in some of my older projects. In order to pick up these wires, what I needed to do is I went in here into this controls box and pulled the wires off here. Look, we don't even have to do it based on the way that this cooler is constructed. Since I'd like to keep the videos under 20 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and nix this one, and we'll come back with some wire and equipment. We'll start working on wiring this thing up. Thanks for watching.